In spite of our autumnal dominance, Gilmore was actually a very small show.
Meaning we had no money.
Nothing.
There are performers who pursue fame with everything they have and build careers around sustaining its visibility. And there are performers who stumble into extraordinary public recognition and spend the rest of their professional lives managing their complicated relationship with what that recognition requires of them. Alexis Bledel belongs unmistakably to the second category. She was 18 years old and had never acted professionally when she was cast as Rory Gilmore in the pilot of Gilmore Girls in 2000. And the 7 seasons and subsequent Netflix revival that followed gave her a public profile so thoroughly associated with a single character that the distance between Alexis Bledel the person and Rory Gilmore the character became one of the defining challenges of her professional and personal life. At 44, the picture that has emerged from the documented record of what she has chosen and what she has declined and what she has said and what she has protected across a quarter century of public life tells a considerably more interesting story than any dramatic revelation could manage. And the truth she has finally and gradually admitted about Lauren Graham, assembled from documented statements across many years, is not devastating in the way the word suggests. It is something quieter and more durable than devastation, which is the specific acknowledgement of what it meant to begin your professional life, standing next to someone who already knew who she was and was generous enough to help you figure out who you were. Alexis Jean Bledel was born on September 16, 1981, in Houston, Texas, according to her documented biography, to a father of Argentine descent and a mother of Mexican descent, both of whom were involved in the business world rather than the entertainment industry. She grew up in a bilingual household in which Spanish was her first language according to documented accounts of her childhood, learning English primarily through school and eventually developing the fluency that her professional life would require without any of the distinctive accent that growing up speaking Spanish at home might have produced. She began modeling as a teenager in Houston, according to documented accounts of her early career in the regional market rather than in the high-profile context that New York fashion modeling creates. And the modeling work produced both the camera comfort and the New York connections that eventually led to her audition for Gilmore Girls. The audition itself and the circumstances that made it possible for an 18-year-old with no acting experience to be cast in the lead role of a network television series is one of the more unusual origin stories in the history of successful television careers. She auditioned for creator Amy Sherman Palladino and was cast as Rory Gilmore over performers with considerably more professional experience, according to documented accounts of the casting process, because Sherman Palladino recognized in her something that no amount of technical training could produce if it was not already there, which was the specific quality of intelligent quietness and self-possessed warmth that the character required. Rory Gilmore was supposed to be a girl who was genuinely exceptional without performing her exceptionalism, who carried her abilities with a natural modesty that made her lovable rather than intimidating. And Bledel had that quality in a way that the audition made visible even before she had the technical skills to deploy it reliably. The woman she found herself working beside on that first day of production was someone who had spent years developing exactly the technical skills that Bledel was just beginning to build. Lauren Graham was born on March 16, 1967, in Honolulu, Hawaii, according to her documented biography, had studied acting formally and seriously, had years of professional television and film experience before Gilmore Girls, and carried onto that set the specific confidence of someone who had worked hard at her craft and knew what she was doing. Bledel described their first meeting in a documented 2016 Glamour interview with a specificity that captures exactly what that experience felt like from her side, saying she was 18 and Lauren was a real professional actress, and this was her first job, and that Lauren had all the poise and confidence and energy of a performer. The phrasing is precise and honest. It does not romanticize the encounter or pretend that they began as equals. It acknowledges that Bledel was a beginner standing beside someone who was not. What Graham brought to that dynamic, according to every documented account of their working relationship across 7 seasons and the subsequent revival, was the opposite of the condescension or competitive diminishment that the industry sometimes produces in established performers working alongside newcomers in equally prominent roles. Graham called Bledel's performance from the start dazzling, saying she saw an immediacy in Bledel's natural ability that was perfect for the character. She treated Bledel as a creative equal from the beginning of their working relationship, according to documented accounts of the production environment, which required Bledel to produce output at a professional standard she had not yet developed the technical foundation to reliably achieve. The specific demands of Gilmore Girls production, which involved an unusually high volume of dialogue delivered at an unusually fast pace, were challenging for experienced performers and potentially overwhelming for someone encountering professional acting for the first time. Graham described in an October 2025 Hollywood Reporter interview how she and Bledel would start singing when they got loopy during demanding shoot days, breaking into the Minnie Riperton song Lovin' You to keep themselves awake when things got punchy and silly. That detail, the two of them singing together during the exhausted late hours of production, says more about the texture of their actual relationship than any formal description of professional mutual respect could manage. The show itself, which ran from 2000 to 2007 across 7 seasons on the WB and then the CW, according to documented television history of the series, produced exactly the kind of sustained audience relationship that makes a television series into something more than entertainment. Stars Hollow and the Gilmore family became cultural reference points that people used to describe their own relationships and their own values and their own aspirations about what family could look like. Lorelai and Rory Gilmore were not simply characters on a show. They were an ideal of a specific kind of closeness between women across generations that the culture was not producing enough images of. And the specific quality of that ideal was built almost entirely on the specific quality of what Graham and Bledel produced together on screen across those 7 years. Bledel's life outside the show during those years was notable primarily for what it was not. It was not public. She did not develop the kind of celebrity presence that performers in roles of comparable cultural visibility usually develop, did not pursue red carpet prominence or tabloid coverage or the social infrastructure of Hollywood celebrity. She gave interviews when the show or specific projects required them and maintained a quality of personal privacy about everything else that struck the entertainment press as unusual and generated its own category of media interest precisely because of its consistency. She was photographed at events in a way that made her visible without making her known in the deeper sense that celebrity coverage usually pursues. After Gilmore Girls ended in 2007, she appeared in a series of film and television projects that demonstrated genuine range without producing another role of comparable cultural impact. She appeared opposite Hugh Dancy and Keira Knightley in The Edge of Love in 2008, in Postgrad in 2009, in the film adaptation of The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants franchise, and in various television roles that maintained a professional presence without replicating the specific conditions of the Gilmore Girls years. She appeared in Mad Men in a recurring role across multiple seasons, playing Beth Dawes, according to documented television records of the show and her participation in it, a role that demonstrated her capacity to do work substantially different in tone and style from anything Gilmore Girls had required. The Netflix revival Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life, which premiered in November 2016, returned her to the role of Rory Gilmore and to working alongside Lauren Graham after 9 years of their careers proceeding on separate tracks. In the 2016 Glamour interview conducted around the revival, Bledel said she felt more grateful for the opportunity to reimagine Rory, while Graham spoke about reconnecting and said they were both in different places than before and both more settled down, which had made the reconnection cool. The specific phrasing, both more settled down now, carries the weight of two people who had each navigated the decade since the original show's end through experiences that had changed them in ways they were not required to specify publicly. The departure from the entertainment industry's mainstream that followed the revival was the most significant professional development of her career since Gilmore Girls itself, and it has been the least discussed in the public record primarily because Bledel herself has declined to discuss it in the terms that would make it more discussable. She was cast in The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, the adaptation of Margaret Atwood's novel, in 2017, according to documented television records of the production, playing Emily Malek, a character whose storylines across the show's first 4 seasons included some of the most emotionally demanding material available in prestige television of that period. She won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series for the role in 2017, according to documented Emmy Award records, and was subsequently promoted to series regular. In May 2022, she announced her departure from The Handmaid's Tale effective at the end of Season 4, according to documented reporting on her exit from the show. The statement she released through her representative was brief, saying only that after much deliberation, she had made the difficult decision to leave the show, and that she was grateful to the cast, crew, and showrunners for the opportunity. The show's creator Bruce Miller issued a statement expressing gratitude for her work and calling her character's journey a beautiful story. Neither statement offered explanation for the timing or the specific circumstances of the departure. The brevity and the absence of elaboration were consistent with how Bledel has managed public information about her private decisions across her entire career, but in the context of a departure from a prominent role in a successful prestige series, The Silence generated its own sustained commentary. Her marriage to Vincent Kartheiser, the actor who played Pete Campbell on Mad Men and whom she met on that show, was announced in June 2015 according to documented reporting on the engagement, and they married later that year. They have a son together, born in 2015 according to documented accounts of the family, whose name they have never publicly disclosed, maintaining a level of privacy about their child's identity that is unusual even relative to Bledel's already unusually private public profile. In March 2023, multiple entertainment publications reported that Bledel and Kartheiser had separated and that divorce proceedings were underway, according to documented reporting on the split. The divorce was confirmed across multiple sources and added a significant personal transition to the period that had already included her departure from The Handmaid's Tale. At the 77th Primetime Emmy Awards on September 14, 2025, Lauren Graham and Alexis Bledel presented together in honor of Gilmore Girls' 25th anniversary, their first shared red carpet appearance in nearly a decade. During their presenting segment, Graham noted that 25 years ago Gilmore Girls premiered and apparently took fall hostage, while Bledel pointed out that despite their autumnal dominance, the show was actually very small, to which Graham explained that small meant they had no money. And they riffed together about the show's modest budget, including saving up all year for one snow episode before ER's crew would wet down their street and wash it all away, with Bledel telling Graham she had to let that go. The exchange was warmly received by an audience and a viewing public that recognized in it the specific chemistry of two people who had genuinely liked each other for a very long time. Graham has described their relationship specifically in terms of friendship rather than simply professional history, praising Bledel's talent and her privacy, and noting that reconnecting for the Emmy appearance had been cool in the way that reconnecting with someone you genuinely like always is. Bledel's public statements about Graham across all the years of their documented relationship have been consistent in the specific quality of the acknowledgement they offer, which is not the generic mutual endorsement that professional relationships produce, but the specific gratitude of someone who understands that the beginning of her professional life was shaped significantly by who she was standing beside. The truth that Alexis Bledel has admitted about Lauren Graham, accumulated across documented statements in interviews from 2016 through 2025, is not devastating. It is the acknowledgement that being 18 years old and having no professional experience and finding yourself in the lead role of a network television series is a frightening and potentially overwhelming situation, and that what made it navigable was the specific generosity of the person she was working alongside. She said Graham had all the poise and confidence and energy of a performer when she herself had none of those things yet. That is not a devastating admission. It is an honest one. And it is the kind of honesty that only becomes available once enough time has passed that the person speaking it understands the full weight of what they are describing. At 44, Alexis Bledel understands exactly what it meant to begin her professional life, standing next to Lauren Graham. The documented record of what she has done with that beginning is a career built on exactly the kind of privacy and selectivity that Graham's generous professionalism made it possible for her to develop on her own terms and at her own pace, without having been broken in the process of the beginning.